Chapter 966, Bad Influence. Sun Zhongyang and the group of sick people finally had a carriage to sit on. Although there was a big hole at the back of the carriage and they spent 50,000 worth of notes on that carriage, they did not seem to mind at all. At least, they had a shelter. The evening after Lu Shu obtained the carriage, it rained cats and dogs. Mo Xiaoya felt grateful to Sun Zhongyang. The carriage could barely fit 5 people. Therefore, Sun Zhongyang and the rest gave the opportunity to sit in the carriage to Mo Xiaoya and 4 other girls. Without comparison, one would not know who was good and who was bad. Therefore, after experiencing Sun Zhongyang's gentlemanlike manners, Lu Shu failed so much in comparison. Sun Zhongyang and the rest were extremely familiar with each other. They had known each other for more than 20 years. Therefore, they seemed to have been used to each other's characters. Therefore, Sun Zhongyang's kindness was gradually neglected and it was difficult for them to develop feelings for each other. However, on this night, a girl suddenly felt that Sun Zhongyang was really nice and developed some feelings for him. Lu Shu looked at them in joy and did not care about how they viewed him. He even felt that if any couples arised from this group of people, they had to thank him. Although he avoided the assassination, Lu Shu was still worried. That was because the people who attacked were only testing. Moreover, the assassination that came after the slaves were massacred made Lu Shu confirm his judgment. His opponents had prepared more than one attack. Sun Zhongyang and the rest tried their best to recover, but because their injuries were severe, they would need at least 3 days to recover. Therefore, in those 3 days, the trade caravan was in extreme danger. For some reason, Mo Xiaoya always felt that Lu Shu did not have a sense of emergency and was still casually practicing his sword techniques. On the second day during lunch, Mo Xiaoya suddenly said, "Are you not worried at all? Since you are protecting us as a form of exchange of terms, you won't be able to leave as and when you like. If you decide to betray us now, the 12 families will find you and kill you." Lu Shu raised his eyebrows. "Who said I am not protecting you guys? Don't make it sound as though I am so bad." Mo Xiaoya thought Lu Shu was pretty reliable normally and she would not need to worry about his intentions and suspect him. In fact, she wanted to test if Lu Shu was the spy of the rear mountain of the sword hut. However, when she did that, would Lu Shu ask her if there was a rear mountain of the sword hut? Mo Xiaoya said quietly as the disciples of the palace were interacting, "I don't think he is the spy from the rear mountain of the sword hut. I can't imagine someone from the rear mountain of the sword hut to be so greedy for money. Have you guys seen anyone who is so greedy for money from the sword hut? The sword hut does not lack money at all. The sword hut did not have many proper businesses, even if the fees for accepting successors were expensive. With only 4 successors per year, the income of the sword hut was limited." Nevertheless, Sun Zhongyang and the rest did not dare to underestimate the capability of the sword hut. Firstly, 20% of the tax income went to the palace and 80% went to the king of gods. Secondly, the offerings of the disciples of the sword hut, who were located all over the universe, added up to an immense amount. Someone in the palace had once said that the sword hut was one of the rare places that did not need to worry about money as money was always sufficient. Therefore, it was really unimaginable for someone who was greedy for money to come from a place which did not lack money. Could it be that the trainees of the rear mountain of the sword hut were not given allowance and had to make their own living? Someone asked curiously. "Stop finding excuses for him," Mo Xiaoya said firmly, "he is just poor." "Now is not the time to think about this," said Sun Zhongyang suddenly. "Xiaoya, when can the expert of your family reach?" "Based on the distance, I think he needs 2 days to fly from the palace to this place," said Mo Xiaoya. "We need to find a way to survive these next 2 days." "I wonder if the young man can last through," sighed Sun Zhongyang. "I guess not. No matter how powerful he is only a rank 2 and can never match up to a rank 1. Sun Zhongyang placed hope in Lu Shu as he guessed that Lu Shu's identity was related to the sword hut. However, if the people who wanted to kill them sent rank 1 experts again, they would be doomed. They were hoping that their opponent would not dare to send their rank 1 experts or were unable to find the rank 1 experts, who were hiding. Each family's rank 1 experts had their names and would be easily discovered by other families if they moved around. After all, each party was holding their guard up against each other. Once someone found out that one sabotaged another family's descendants, the two families would go all out to fight against each other. The aristocrats of the palace liked to carry things out in the dark. Like the ocean, no matter how aggressive the current was under the water, the surface was always calm. Everyone was used to having a backup plan for themselves. At this moment, the boss of the trade caravan said suddenly, "I think there is a higher probability for him to be the successor of the Sword Hut." "Oh? Why?" Sun Zhongyang was curious. Song Bo mentioned the story about how someone died strangely last night. "I suspect that there's an expert protecting them secretly. Perhaps there was more than one assassin. Therefore, I think we are not in as dangerous a position as we had expected." "Did you guys not see how the young man was so composed and calm?" Sun Zhongyang thought about it. "Judging from this, he has a reason to collect money. However, none of us noticed that there were people protecting him from the back. Could it be that the person was more powerful than us, therefore they can't be noticed by us?" "Possible," said Song Bo. A group of them were discussing in the shadow near the carriage. At this moment, Sun Zhongyang was stunned and said, "Hold on, where is Lu Yulu?" They looked around and did not see Lu Shu. Wasn't he just beside the bonfire earlier on? Then, a voice was heard from overhead, "I am here, I am here." Sun Zhongyang and the rest lifted their heads and got a shock of their life when they saw Lu Shu at the top of the carriage. All of them were severely injured and did not notice it when someone came close. Lu Shu smiled as he looked at the rest. To be honest, when Sun Zhongyang asked the question regarding where Lu Yulu was, he almost did not realize that Sun Zhongyang was calling himself. "Why are you on the top of the carriage?" Mo Xiaoya's face was black. She wanted to scold Lu Shu for eavesdropping but did not put it bluntly because they still had to depend on Lu Shu to protect them for these 2 days. Lu Shu smiled. "I am eavesdropping." Mo Xiaoya's face turned even blacker. Why was he so blatant about eavesdropping? Then, everyone looked up and saw Lu Xiaoyu and Su Mujuan sitting cross-legged on the top of the carriage too. Sun Zhongyang suddenly felt as though he was stabbed in the heart. Why did Su Mujuan, a lady of good character, get influenced by Lu Yulu? Chapter 967, There's a Spy. "Why are you eavesdropping on us?" Mo Xiaoya was very angry. She had never seen someone as shameless as Lu Shu who thought that he was right although he was eavesdropping on others. "Oh," Lu Shu said after thinking, "I suspect that there's a spy within you guys, so I came to eavesdrop as an attempt to identify the spy." Sun Zhongyang's expression changed immediately. He said in a deep voice, "Do you know what you are saying? How dare you insult our over 20 years of friendship?" "I am merely being suspicious," smiled Lu Shu. "Please leave. Our friendship doesn't need your suspicion," said Sun Zhongyang coldly. "Fine, you guys can continue chatting." Lu Shu waved his hands and left with Lu Xiaoyu, with Su Mujuan following behind. He did not bother arguing with Sun Zhongyang. The outcome was the most important. Whether Sun Zhongyang believed it or not was not important. Sun Zhongyang and the rest felt speechless. Then, they suddenly realized that it should be the time to settle bills with Lu Shu. Before they settled the bills on him eavesdropping, how could he leave? Mo Xiaoya became angrier. "Sun Zhongyang, why are you allowing him to leave?" Sun Zhongyang thought about it for a long while before he realized he had taken a huge blame. I am angry because he was being suspicious of our friendship." From Sun Zhongyang's distress, plus 666. From Mo Xiaoya's distress, plus 666. From everyone was annoyed. They could not do anything with the young man called Lu Yulu. It was all right if they were not injured, but now that they were injured, they could not defeat him at all. Now, Sun Zhongyang did not even know if Lu Shu was being truthful about the statement that there was a spy in the team. This was a disturbing issue. Sun Zhongyang believed that something so terrible would not happen with their over 20 years of friendship. However, what if it happened? This time, Lu Shu was actually being serious. In the past, before the slaves attacked, they would warn him first. After Sun Zhongyang and the rest were injured, assassins came immediately. They did not have a high status. Their intention was to kill Song Bo, the boss of the trade caravan. Their opponent was very certain that Song Bo was only a rank 2 and his biggest wish was to buy a carriage. Therefore, they sent 2 rank 2s with a carriage to lure him. Initially, they were rather confident of killing Song Bo, but Lu Shu ruined their plan. Lu Shu felt that there were many strange parts to this whole event. Therefore, it was better to be safe than sorry. The trade caravan advanced in the wilderness. Sun Zhongyang and the rest were recuperating on the wooden carriage while Mo Xiuya and the rest sat in the carriage with big holes. The slaves of the trade caravan were all extremely exhausted. Song Bo's slaves had experienced many battles. With Song Bo's status, he would definitely get the best slaves to protect himself and his properties. However, no matter how good the slaves were, they were unable to participate in the battle amongst the rank 1 experts. At this moment, Song Bo felt that the crucial thing was to be powerful. Everyone in the trade caravan looked unkempt. The trade caravan had passed by several towns, but Song Bo was afraid to create problems and therefore did not enter. He decided to head to the palace straight away. Therefore, by right, when the trade caravan passed by any towns or fortresses, Song Bo would send some of his slaves down to refill basic supplies like water. They would not enter the town. The slaves in the trade caravan left hurriedly the day after Lu Shu said that there could be spies. Song Bo explained to them that there would be a town nearby the state highway and sent the slaves to buy some supplies. Then, Song Bo realized that the atmosphere was strange. When he turned around, he saw Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu and Su Mujuan staring quietly at him. Song Bo felt goosebumps forming. He asked Lu Shu, "Why are you staring at me?" Lu Shu said calmly, "You are the person who comes into contact with the outside world the most often. You are merely sitting here." Yesterday, the other party did not take any actions, seemingly to be waiting for an opportunity. When the slaves return with the food, nobody shall touch them and you shall take the first bite? Song Bo felt unwell. He was always afraid that the food he bought would be poisoned and always asked his slaves to test it before he ate them. Now, he was told to test the food. Everyone knew that they were under special circumstances and poisoning of food was very probable. Therefore, if he was the one who was supposed to do the food testing, he would probably die suddenly. Sun Zhongyang suddenly said coldly, "Stop being suspicious. We had destroyed so much food and other supplies. We also threw many of them away because the carriage and horses are destroyed. If we don't buy food from the town, we would have died long ago." Moreover, Song Bo had done so much for the Sun family for decades, the Sun family trusts him. Lu Shu glared at Sun Zhongyang. To be honest, he had nothing against Sun Zhongyang as Sun Zhongyang was extremely fair and straightforward. Therefore, Lu Shu knew that there was a reason that made Sun Zhongyang the leader of the team. Everyone was willing to obey him and this made Sun Zhongyang charismatic. Now, upon seeing how Lu Shu made things difficult for Song Bo, Sun Zhongyang could not stand it. He could clearly remember whatever Song Bo did for him along the way. How could he suspect someone at this point in time? Lu Shu shrugged. "Then what shall we do if there's poison?" At this moment, Song Bo's slaves had returned with buns wrapped in paper packaging. Song Bo thought about it. "How about this? Nobody shall do the food testing. I will use the silver needle to test if the bun is poisoned. If it is, I will die as punishment. I only hope for the Sun family to treat my family well." As he said that, he took out a silver needle and pressed it into the bun. When the silver needle was pulled out, it really turned black. This time, Sun Zhongyang was speechless. The slave who was holding the bun was also speechless. Lu Shu said, "Are you stupid? This is a King red bean bun." Lu Shu was puzzled. Who told you that the silver needle can test if food is poisonous? Song Bo was stunned for a moment. The water margin one written by the old king of gods. Lu Shu suddenly felt that the old king of gods was really free. He copied the long water margin. However, he could not say much as the idea about using the silver needle to test for poison on Earth also came from the water margin. However, the spreading of this idea made one think that it was 100% accurate special tool in wuxia novels. However, the principle behind this was targeting arsenic. Lu Shu did not believe that arsenic could have any effect on rank 1 practitioners. Lu Shu felt that the big build of rank 1 experts would definitely not die from eating arsenic. At most, they would have diarrhea and recover by the next day. Chapter 968, Panic. At first, Lu Shu had wondered why the Luniverse did not use gold and silver as hard currency. At first, they had used magical stones. After they standardized the currency, they used notes. Now, they even used silver needles to test for poison. After a long time, he realized that the old king of gods had copied this from water margin 1. Lu Shu tried to explain the reasoning behind using silver needles to test for poison. He told them that it was not an accurate indicator. But Lu Shu felt that based on their level of education, he would not be able to properly explain it to them. Sun Zhongyang was a famous scholar from the palace. He was an outstanding student in the Imperial College who excelled in both morals and studies. He never expected to be treated as an uneducated person by Lu Shu. "There is no way to test for poison," said Sun Zhongyang. "But I will not allow human lives to be used to test for poison. The Sun family will not gamble with human lives." Lu Shu realized that the expression of the girls around Sun Zhongyang had changed. They all adored Sun Zhongyang. They were willing to devote their lives to him. The differences in the innate nature of Sun Zhongyang and the other playboys were evident after a problem occurred. Lu Shu cheerily observed this. He quite admired Sun Zhongyang. In the past, he had thought that the people in the palace did not think highly of human lives. Lu Shu let go. "Then, if you are not willing to test for poison, you will definitely not eat food from the outside world. Am I right?" Sun Zhongyang nodded his head. "That is true. But we have run out of food in the trade caravan. We have to find a solution. We can't starve either." Mo Xiaoya looked very worried. "It will take at least half a month to reach the palace. But without testing for poison, we cannot eat food from the outside world," said someone. Spies and food became the worry of the trade caravan. Putting spies aside, food was the most urgent matter. Suddenly, someone realized that although they had been injured, they still felt fine. How did they become so melancholic overnight? What was the reason? When everyone carefully thought about it, they suddenly realized that it was all because of Lu Shu. Lu Shu had told them about the spies. He had also told them that the food might contain poison. Was he intentionally trying to cause panic in the trade caravan? But why would he do so? Mo Xiaoya looked at one of the others. They had been worried about whether Lu Yulu would bribe them. With his greedy personality, it was not impossible. Thus, Sun Zhongyang and the rest could not help but suspect that Lu Shu was the source of panic in the trade caravan. Sun Zhongyang calmly asked Lu Shu, "What should we do now?" He wanted to push this question to Lu Shu and try to find clues from his solution. At that moment, Lu Shu looked at Sun Zhongyang and the rest. He paused for 2 seconds before saying, "My price for grains is fair and reasonable. It is enough for everyone." From Sun Zhongyang's distress, plus 777. From Mo Xiaoya's distress, plus 999. From Sun Zhongyang and Mo Xiaoya were very angry. Everyone was guessing why Lu Shu had tried to get everyone involved in the panic. Everyone had thought about the worst possible scenario. But he had spent so much effort only to sell his grains. Mo Xiaoya laughed coldly. Your greed has exceeded my expectations. Is the money you will earn from grains worth all this effort? Lu Shu was puzzled. The meager amount of money I will earn from selling grains? What? Are you thinking of selling your grains at an exorbitant price? Mo Xiaoya laughed coldly. Lu Shu patiently explained, you don't quite understand me. From Mo Xiaoya's distress, plus 666. The entire trade caravan had mixed feelings. Song Bo felt that ever since Lu Shu had joined the trade caravan, many annoying things had happened. When Lu Shu talked about selling his grains, everyone realized that Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu might have invisible storage equipment. The identities of Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu became more mysterious. At first, Mo Xiaoya had said that Lu Shu was poor. Thus, he was greedy. Although Lu Shu's power was mysterious, he definitely did not have any background or experience. They could sense this, as Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu felt that many things were new. But now, they even had invisible storage equipment. Even for Sun Zhongyang, he was only gifted a space ring after he had officially advanced to rank 1. Out of the 12 of them, only 2 possessed invisible storage equipment. After all, they were not the only children of their families. The possession of invisible storage equipment became a dividing line among the children of the palace. If one had invisible storage equipment, this meant that they were valued by their families and had the right of authority. But Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had such a rare item, and not just 2 of them. At first, when Lu Shu had killed 7 rank 2 experts at Port Artyom, he thought that he would be able to obtain 1 or 2 pieces of invisible storage equipment. But he did not obtain any. But there had always been a space ring that Lu Shu had kept. It was the space ring that Lu Shu had obtained when he killed Howard. The mask that allowed Lu Shu to change his appearance also had a space within it, but Lu Shu had never thought of using it as an invisible storage equipment. Thus, the combined wealth of Sun Zhongyang and the rest did not even come close to Lu Shu's wealth. But Sun Zhongyang and the rest were not able to accept this answer. In the end, Song Bo spent a few 100,000 notes to buy 300 kilograms of grains and some preserved vegetables from Lu Xiaoyu. Mo Xiaoya and the rest saw the words, Long Meng Army, printed on the packets of grain. Mo Xiaoya softly said to Sun Zhongyang, so he was from the Long Meng Army. The Weiwu Army had obtained grains from 2 armies, the Long Meng Army and the Aristocrat armies. They had stolen grains from the aristocrat armies in a commotion. If the packets of grain they had stolen had the seal of an aristocrat family on them, the identities of Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu would have been exposed. But when Lu Xiaoyu had stolen grains from the Long Meng Army, she had done so by sinking the trucks underground. Even the Long Meng Army had thought that it was the doing of the Black Feather Army. Thus, they wiped out the spies from the Black Feather Army, resulting in a great war. Thus, no one knew that the Long Meng Army had been robbed by the Weiwu Army. Back then, the Long Meng Army and the Black Feather Army engaged in a very vicious fight with each other. Lu Xiaoyu still felt that everything was under control. That should be the case. If not, why would he have grains from the Long Meng Army? Sun Zhongyang nodded his head. He might have trained in the Long Meng Army. Sun Zhongyang was certain that Lu Shu was from the rear mountain of the Sword Hut and had trained in the Long Meng Army. No wonder he is willing to betray the commander of the Weiwu Army. I heard that the Long Meng Army has a grudge against the Weiwu Army for looking on at their troubles with indifference. Sun Zhongyang finally found a reasonable explanation for Lu Shu. Mo Xiaoya furrowed her eyebrows. He's just doing it for money. Chapter 969, You Have to Pay. Mo Xiaoya's view of Lu Shu had been fixed. But was Lu Shu doing this for money? He was trying to rid any suspicion that he was the commander of the Wei Wu army. He was just earning money along the way. After all, there were many clues. Lu Shu was from Nanjing City and he was powerful. If one did not think carefully about it, there would be no suspicions. But Lu Shu could not treat Sun Zhongyang and the rest as fools. Thus, he brought in some side details in order to get rid of any suspicion. It would then be easier for him to carry out his plans in the future. Lu Shu secretly looked at the expressions of Sun Zhongyang and the rest. Then, he told Lu Xiaoyu, "They've believed it. Your idea is not bad." "Of course it will," said Lu Xiaoyu with a smile. Lu Shu had told her about his worries. Thus, after some painstaking investigation, she felt that the grains from the Long Meng army would be useful. After all, no one knew that she was the one who had taken the grains away from them. Everything was under control. At that moment, Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Countless birds flew overhead from the forest. They crowded together and formed a layer. The flapping of their wings produced a large commotion. It was as if danger was approaching. Sun Zhongyang and the others grew serious. They calmly looked in the direction of the forest. "They're here." Everyone knew that if those who wanted to kill them did not give up, they would attack within 3 days, as Sun Zhongyang and the rest only need 3 days to recover. After 3 days, the slaves would have died for nothing. Mo Xiaoya asked calmly, "What do we do now?" She subconsciously looked at Lu Shu. Their wounds had not fully healed. They did not have much combat strength. The enemy had spent a lot of money to ask the slaves to reduce the strength of Sun Zhongyang and the rest. The following forces might not be as powerful. Just as Sun Zhongyang had said, the more combat power they used, the easier it was for the Sun family to find clues. But, if a rank 1 appeared, they would not be able to defend themselves. Mo Xiaoya was most worried that Lu Shu would discard his loyalty and run away. She could be slightly relieved, but she could not completely trust Lu Shu. They could already see soldiers coldly observing them. It was as if an even more frightening opponent was hiding in the woods. When Song Bo saw these cold armored soldiers, he did not feel safe. They are the notorious mercenary soldiers. How did they come from the north region? Sun Zhongyang was very calm. Sons of rich families were not as terrible as people had thought. On the contrary, handsome and capable young men could often be found among them. In the past, Sun Zhongyang had seen a senior disciple of the Sword Hut and was rated as having patience. These 2 words were the reason why Sun Zhongyang had become famous in the palace. It was all because a senior disciple of the Sword Hut had said so. Sun Zhongyang said, "They are still not willing to reveal their identities. They actually made these fugitives come all the way here. They are really willing to spend money." Lu Shu looked at Sun Zhongyang. "How much does it cost to hire them?" Sun Zhongyang looked at Lu Shu with a puzzled expression on his face. He did not expect this young man to still be thinking about money. "Not more than 7 million. Don't touch them. They have a rank 1 expert among them." Lu Shu laughed. "Then I will be at a loss. Let me work this out with you. If I kill them, will you give me 7 million? Are you out of your mind?" Mo Xiaoya could not believe it. "Do you value money more than your life? Let me add one more condition." Lu Shu did not care about Mo Xiaoya. "When we reach the palace, help me convert all my money into goods." "What goods?" Sun Zhongyang was puzzled. "I'll talk about it when we reach the palace. I promise that it is something that you can buy." "I won't ask for the stars in the sky," said Lu Shu with a smile. "Even if you want the stars in the sky, we don't have them," said Mo Xiaoya with disdain. "I have them," said Lu Shu jokingly. He wanted to convert the money for magical armor. There was enough armor for the Wei Wu army, but the heavenly network still lacked armor. He only had 20,000 sets of bronze armor. But after the new batch of practitioners came from the 7 major cultivation colleges, they would reach 100,000 people. Not only was Lu Shu the commander of the Weiwu army, he was also the 9th heavenly king of the heavenly network. Earlier, Lu Shu was thinking about how the fatality rates in the heavenly network would decrease if everyone had a set of armor. Lu Shu looked forward to it. What would it be like for 100,000 heavenly network members to charge forth with their armor? But he could not tell Sun Zhongyang and the rest that he wanted magical armor. After all, many people knew that the Weiwu army was collecting armor. It would be easy for them to make connections. Okay. I agree, said Sun Zhongyang. But you'd better think about it. I don't think that you will be able to kill these people. Mo Xiaoya was silent. She then said, I don't think money is as important as your life. Don't throw away your life for money. No one believed that Lu Shu would be able to kill them. But at that moment, Lu Shu happily jumped off the carriage. Wait here. Don't worry. Since you have paid me, the situation that you are most worried about will not happen. With that, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu went into the forest. Mo Xiaoya looked at Lu Shu's back. She realized that he was calm as usual. When she thought about how greedy he was, Mo Xiaoya could no longer understand how such conflicting characteristics could be found in one person. For some reason, this moment made Sun Zhongyang believe that this young man would be able to return from the forest. When the soldiers saw Lu Shu walking towards them, they retreated into the deeper part of the forest. They wanted to set up their formation in an advantageous place. Although they had received information that this young man was only a rank 2, they had lived comfortably as notorious soldiers as they were careful and ferocious. They did not have the tyranny of a male lion, but they were ferocious wolves. Song Bo looked at them leave with mixed feelings. He straightened his clothes and saluted to Sun Zhongyang. I will assist him. Although I am a businessman, I have to do justice to my strength as well. Sun Zhongyang sat cross-legged on the flatbed cart and looked at Song Bo with mixed feelings. In the past, he looked down on Song Bo, as he was inherently a businessman who prioritized profits. But now, his impression of him had been renewed. But before Song Bo could take a step, and before Sun Zhongyang could say anything else, they saw Lu Shu suddenly turn back. If you want to come, you have to pay. Song Bo suddenly felt as if he had been humiliated. From Song Bo's distress, plus 666. Su Mujuan sat on the carriage and supported her chin with her hands. She looked at Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu walk away. In the past, that person in a ceremonial dress had told her that she would have good luck. Back then, Su Mujuan did not believe this. But now, she suddenly believed these words. Chapter 970, A Secret Guest. Luotian Cultivation College, Luo City. In the Species Research Specialization Laboratory, there was the clicking of a mouse and the tapping of a keyboard. There were even sounds of gunshots. Young lady, do you want to have an online affair? Chen Zuan skillfully controlled his character to jump behind a girl. The girl spoke and sang well. He heard her voice through his earphones. If you give me a class 3 armor, I will have an online affair with you. Chen Zuan sat in front of the computer and remained silent for a long time. I have lived for 19 years, but this is the first time I have been asked to take off my clothes by a girl. Are you making me take off the class 3 armor I have just obtained? Then, Chen Zuan picked up a grenade and perished together with the girl. Chang Qiuqiao laughed and slapped the table. The computer in the laboratory started to give off a buzzing sound. This computer was configured very well. It displayed game graphics well. But the computer was supposed to be used to handle data. It was not being used in the manner that it was created for. Chen Zuan expressionlessly looked at Chang Qiuqiao. What's so funny? Do you know what a fatelocked means? Chang Qiuqiao asked with a serious expression on his face. Chen Zuan was confused. You are now in a fate-locked situation, said Cheng Qiuqiao with a serious tone. Your fate with others has been locked up. There are no more changes. Chen Zuan was rendered speechless. Chen Zuan was very bored during this period. He dragged Cheng Qiuqiao to play games with him. He also pursued online affairs. But these online affairs had become the site of a large-scale accident. The pretty young women online all uploaded captivating pictures, but when their actual appearances were revealed, they were either fake pictures or men. Since the time he had encountered a young lady who turned out to be a man, Cheng Qiuqiao told Chen Zuan that if he could not report this as an industrial injury, he would no longer accompany Chen Zuan. In the past, Chen Zuan felt that his university life would be very exciting. The Luotian Cultivation College species research specialization was outstanding. He wanted to ride on this trend. But the person who had raised the standards of the species research specialization had disappeared. Lu Xiaoyu had disappeared as well. It was as if life had suddenly calmed down. It was plain and boring. Where did Chao Qingxi go? Chen Zuan curiously looked around the laboratory, but did not see Chao Qingxi anywhere. She's probably at the training ground, said Cheng Qiuqiao. Recently, she's given up on researching on time. She has been training her swordplay. Chen Zuan stretched. The heavenly network is invincible. There's no need to train. It's lonely at the top. Have you realized that quite a few exchange students have come to Luotian? Yes. Luotian has become a sacred training ground for people overseas. Coming here is like going on a pilgrimage. Once they go back, they can bring honor to their ancestors, said Cheng Qiuqiao with a smile. Then, the laboratory fell silent. Chen Zuan said, I don't know what happened to Brother Shu. I'm worried about him. I'm not worried about Brother Shu at all, said Cheng Qiuqiao as he looked at the ceiling. He was very bored. There's no need to worry about his safety. I'm worried that the passage of time over there is different from that of on Earth. I believe that he will find a way to return, but what shall we do if we are old by then? At that moment, Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao's phones suddenly lit up. They looked at each other and picked up their phones. Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao were considered extremely strong in the entire Luo city. Thus, they were different from typical students. Zhong Yutong would directly contact them to settle some troublesome affairs. Chen Zuan unlocked his phone and took a look. A practitioner has kidnapped a villa dealer in Longmen Mountain. Do we really have to go there? There's definitely a reason behind this. Cheng Qiuqiao nimbly picked up his sword and walked out. Since Zhong Yutong had notified them, there was definitely a need for them to be there. The two of them hurriedly headed towards Longmen Mountain. They did not drive there. Instead, they ran along the rooftops of buildings. When the civilians in Luo City looked up and saw two people jumping on the rooftops, they took out their phones and took pictures. But they did not think that this was strange or new. This was now a common sight. When the members of the Heavenly Network went on missions, they often disliked the fact that traveling on the ground was very slow. Thus, they would often show off their skills by leaping onto roofs and jumping over walls. The worlds of ordinary people and practitioners started to integrate with one another. Everyone did not think that this was strange. When they reached the district of villas as instructed, they realized that the entire district had been closed off by the Heavenly Network. Zhong Yutong stood at the entrance and looked at the documents that had just been compiled. He looked up and saw Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao. The dealer is in a stable condition, but some strange things have happened. I want you to prevent any accidents from happening. Strange? Chen Zuan asked curiously. This guy seems to be mentally unsound, said Zhong Yutong. But he is shrouded in a veil of mystery. After the dealer was kidnapped, he was not injured. But he was interrogated with questions like what place this is, what kind of people are here, and other very fundamental questions. He did not even realize when the dealer secretly called the police. Now, his phone still has stable connection. We can still hear the sound of the bandit speaking. Our colleague has used a telescope to look at the situation. The phone is on the tea table in front of the bandit, but the bandit does not seem to understand what the phone is for. Zhong Yutong passed Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiu a pair of wireless earphones each and gestured at them to put them out. But the earphones were silent, except for the sound of the bandit walking. Which mountain did this strange person materialize from? Chen Zuan was dumbfounded. Did someone from the Institute of Mental Health awaken again? Chen Zuan used the word again, as the concentration of magical energy had been increasing at an accelerated pace. The current amount of magical energy in the world was 4 or 5 times that of in the past. Thus, the rate of progress in training had increased. Even those who could not awaken in the past had awakened. The Institute of Mental Health had become the most badly affected area. In the past, one of the patients had suddenly said that he was a mushroom. While the psychiatrist was doing psychological treatment, the patient actually turned into a mushroom. The psychiatrist almost collapsed. But Zhong Yutong shook his head. That doesn't seem to be the case. Earlier, we discovered massive waves of energy above Longmen Mountain, but they disappeared. The appearance of this person is likely to have something to do with these waves of energy. The waves of energy above the Longmen Mountain had always been unstable. The heavenly network had thought that a new remains would appear, but it had not appeared. There were no remains, but the waves of energy remained unstable. Zhong Yutong and the rest were very nervous. They did not know what was happening. At that moment, they suddenly heard the bandit talking to himself over the earphones. Someone is targeting me. If I go back, I will definitely report this to the Lord of Heaven. I will ensure that they are unable to bear the consequences of failure.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.